Yep. So we'll lead with long cattle, short wheat spread. Anybody else in it besides me?
I love it. I mean, you should be printing money
every day. It's the best spread ever. And it's logical too.
All right. Well, after this intro, you can explain the logic, John.
Talk about stuff in hindsight. That's the logic. I wish I was in that spread.
Welcome to Hedge Heads, where hosts John Prischman and Ryan Tungseth discuss commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. While no one knows where the market's going, they're not afraid to share some ideas.
Well, John, it's officially summer, I think. You were just gone fishing for like 10 days. It's 80 degrees outside, and man, planners are rolling, huh?
Every direction. Where I just drove through would be its border of Minnesota and South Dakota. It would be considered farm country. I mean, there is farms and highways and gravel roads and a lot of equipment out there right now. Everybody's moving in every direction here. Talked to a guy in Illinois on the way home. They're moving. Ohio. Talked to another guy in Ohio. They're moving. He's dodging rain. Illinois is dodging rain, but the West is going spectacular. As a matter of fact, I think they just released the crop progress report. What did they say? 40% corn? They're expecting 41. It was 40. The 5-year average 39. Doesn't even matter. It's going in, and it's going in like crazy. And this week is going to be the big jump. It was a percent less than they thought. It's not going to matter. Beans were 30%. Everything's ahead of the 5-year average, and it looks to really jump up next week. You have some more numbers in front of you?
Yeah, I'm just looking at what was just released. So corn, 40% planted, 41 expected. 39% is the 5-year average. Soybeans, 30%, 31% expected, and 23% is the 5-year average.
Yeah, the good news for this stuff is now with the weather the way it is, they will get over that it's a quick planting pace. 2012, this happened exactly this way. Got off to a fast start. I would say it was way drier than it is right now, but it got hot early and often and dry. The market saw that as all these acres are going in, and it went down every day into the middle of June, and yet it was one of our biggest bull markets. So never rule anything out, and that's going to kind of lead us into what we're going to talk about today, is that we're in this dynamic window that's 6 weeks long. Anything's going to happen, and if there's going to be a year a guy gambles, it's going to have to be this year. I don't even see a choice. I would love to say there's a great strategy to cover everything. You don't hardly give up any of the bottom line. You have your upside wide open, but it just simply doesn't exist. It's a low price, unfortunately, already. July just went on sale for who knows what reason. What was that, down 15 today?
15 cents.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
why not?
Yeah, why not just shove it down at already we're the lowest price in the world. Let's get it even cheaper for absolutely no reason, because Chicago or New York or somebody looking out at some high rise somewhere likes to sell corn. So they're beating up the front of corn. I don't like the way that looks. That we've been talking about this for how long? Didn't stop me from being bull spread, of course, but that it hasn't looked right. And to this day, it's acting the same. Where is this tightness in corn? We've talked about how good the export sales are. They have not cooled off. It's going to be record-breaking. 2020, maybe a little bit more. Yet, we see no tightness. So are the USDA's numbers wrong? Completely wrong? I mean, what exactly is going on in corn? Nobody seems to know. But what I don't like is what this means for December 25. Yes, it's on the good side of the unwinding of the bull spreads, and it's not falling as much as July. But if July's bearish, the one they're buying nonstop every day, what's going to happen in December when it's 95 million acres that goes in well, starts growing well? South America has a much bigger crop to compete with. What's that one going to look like?
Right. No, and that's those are all the things that need to be considered when you're trying to make a decision here, right? I mean, and how are you going to gamble? Because all we have is the USDA numbers. But if you can also look at and say, if the export numbers are real and the USDA numbers are real,
Yeah, this can't be happening.
Where is all this corn coming from?
Yeah, something doesn't add up. If you look at a 20-year chart on July, December corn, if it's inverted after March, it hasn't gone to zero one time. This one's, 11.5 cents above now? Second trip down here. The first one was a little more understandable. Tariffs, heavy liquidation, and it fell. This one is it was just on the highs in the spread. July was 35 cents over December. And in 4 days, it drops 20 some cents for absolutely no reason but better demand than expected. So something looks off in the numbers. That's not good news for 25 corn at all. Everybody's counting on this 1.4, 1.2 billion bushel carryover. And if it's more like 1.8, 1.9, which I have no idea why they'd be understating this crap. I don't know that they've ever done it like that. Then what's that mean for December 25? It's going to be the worst news ever.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week. You weren't here, Mike and I did, but what if that number is real? What does it mean for corn? And Mike threw up 250, which no one wants to see that.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you have trade war, and if this number is off, and if they were understating it, the reality is, not to be scary, you could get there. Right, and so something's off.
How are you going to get subscribers if you guys are saying 250 corn? I mean, how are we going to build this? No, I'm just kidding. It's
because there's an opportunity, John, to make $2 on the market if you want to short it today.
Yeah, that's what I feel like doing, and you just know right in front of the summer weather, you're just going to get it handed to you. You join the easy pathway. Like I could buy cattle tomorrow and stop the market single-handedly.
Right. Well, I thought you were. Aren't you buying cattle, selling wheat? Isn't that your new spread? I thought you were going to talk about that spread.
Yeah, spread that's really been working. I don't know. It's popular. It's long cattle, short wheat. No, it's a spread I wish I was in. It's two markets that go two different directions every single day. I don't know how it's possible, but they both seem to do it. Wheat every once in a while goes up 3 or 4. By the close, though, it's down. So how many days in a row can wheat go down, and how many days up in a row can cattle go up? I don't know. We're going to find out.
Right until you buy one or sell the other.
Yeah, I could. If you need some hedging help and you're underwater in your cattle hedges, maybe I'll pick up a couple contracts and stop the market for you. Probably be a limit down for days. But that cattle market, yeah, let's talk about that. It is unstoppable. Retail demand. And a lot of people are confused. They think the numbers are low, and they are. But no lower than last year. Yet here we are with way better price. Where were we last summer? I mean, I think we're on the way down 170s.
I feel like it was 170s, but I don't quote me because I don't remember at all. And I know we weren't over $2. I do know that.
Yeah, we were talking about how unhedgeable the board was. Now this board is becoming hedgeable. That's for sure. It was, $13, $14 under cash that just couldn't give cattle away. The futures look horrible. And then one day they lit the fuse, and it's been, straight up long cattle, short wheat. But at the same time, wheat took the turn the other way.
Please don't really trade that spread.
Yeah, that is not a spread. They have, the wheat is so cheap, it's making it into the feed rations. So it has somewhat of a relationship, but that is just a dream spread that, because all my other horrible ones that I have on, I just wish I had that one on. Because you'd be happy every day.
Talking cattle and cattle spreads, so we mentioned it 2 weeks ago, I think, and or no, maybe it was on an insider, but we talked about the October-December cattle spread.
Yeah, that was 50, 60, 70 cents.
65 cents over right now.
Yep, these are all records for all this stuff for this time of year. You just don't see these kinds of moves. It's all trying to catch up to cash. They're bull spreading everything across the board. And it's a unique market in the fact that it does seem to go up every single day. And that you just don't find. Even in bull markets, you'll see a lot of back and forth. Cattle market just doesn't have that. What was it, down 1 day last week? And
you actually called me and said the cattle market was crashing, and I went and looked, and it was $1.50 50 or something that it was down.
It felt like it was crashing.
It felt like it was crashing because it was down.
Yeah,
one
gave
day.
away half of yesterday, the day before his gains.
The trend is your friend, I guess, is what
that is the definition of a trend is your friend. So cattle just bulletproof, and you could not give away grains. You got two things going two different directions. But where are we headed with U.S. eggs? It looks like a really, really, really ugly spot. You have to hope for something that we don't know. The trade deals, the weather. But the good news is this is the window when it happens. Over the next 6 weeks, you've seen some very, very unique moves. Some of it's been too much rain. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case this year. The other moves have been obviously hot and dry. The drought map got, what was it, about 2 months ago? Everybody was talking about the drought, which, yeah, they should make it a national commodity holiday. In February, you start talking about how bad the drought's going to be because everybody does it every year. It never changes. And then sure enough, two months later, the entire drought map looks absolutely perfect. Actually, it's getting wet. But it's also the time of the year where it's 85, 90 degrees, and that'll disappear really quick. So it'll go into the plantings. They'll say it's going to be a mega crop, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, it doesn't look like maybe it's going to live up to that potential. That's where the good news is that's where we're headed. But you do have years like, I think it was 2013 or 2014, where every day was good. The planting was good, a little bit of rain behind planting, and more rain behind planting, a lot of heat, in between more rain. And the crop was outstanding, and there was never one day that it was in doubt. But those are very rare years, and that's what we have. I mean, we don't have anything else to offer other than that doesn't happen very often, and generally you'll get a chance. Now, what I think is going to separate guys is recognizing that chance. So what am I tracking? You look at, so when you have a lot of carry in the market or some carry in the market in between like December and July, it's already out pretty far for next year's crop. So when you get a lot of carry, what you want to look at is selling deferred calls, picking up some premium on that, but you can't do it in front of, or you shouldn't do it in front of summer weather. But there'll be these windows in there where, let's say, for instance, a 560 July gets to be 30, 35 cents. The price comes up 25, 30, 40 cents on kind of a hot and dry. We're nowhere near 560. If 590 hedges, worst case scenario, makes sense for you, that's the kind of stuff you got to start looking at. Now, you also have to have a plan going into that. You can't really sell puts right now because you already own the corn. You don't need to own more corn. You can on the spec side, but if you thought that corn was going to bounce, selling puts, if it kept going down, you'd just end up owning more corn. Where if you sell a call, that's not exactly a hedge because you don't know if it's going to get to that level to lock that price in. But if you're trying to build a better price, you better start selling premium and selling carry. But it's still the very wrong time of year to do it. That being said, it's a narrow window when it is the right time to do it. So it's not there one day, it's there the next day. And it might not be a 560. If you're lucky, it's a 620 for 30 cents. But these 20, 30 cent options that you can get on in the summer and all that volatility, it doesn't come without risk. You could have margins and it could go up to that price. That would be a legitimate hedge if it went well on the money. So you short, let's just use 580 for 30 cents, even though it's not near there right now. At 610, that would be your actual hedge because you got 30 cents for the option. 580 was the strike price, so 580 plus 30 is 610. And that would be your short futures contract if it continued to go up through there. But also what complicates it, if it goes up there in the summer, through it, and then back down, then you're no longer hedged. So you're using this to just build a better price, come up with ideas, whether you're shorting futures, selling options, and then just saying, hey, 480 is going to have to do this year. Those strategies, you need somebody behind you planning this. You need to know what you're doing. And but my point is you need to start planning for at least some idea what you want to be looking at. So for me, I'm going to use a carry in the market in the new crop and look for opportunities, look for windows to maybe get some of this stuff on depending on the weather. If it stays hot and dry, obviously you don't want any of this on. What I'm talking about is hot and dry for 2 weeks. Then you see some rain in the forecast and maybe entertain this. But again, running this stuff by your banker, running it by, me or Ryan. We'll talk to you about it. You got to know what you're doing when you do that. I'm talking about the guys that do it and that have done it. These are the windows that you're looking for, that big implied volatility spike, meaning the prices go way high, and then all of a sudden the prices reverse, and then you capture this premium very quickly. It all looks good on paper until you start getting margin calls. So you really want to plan this out. What was that Mike Tyson quote? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right. Fits perfectly with commodities. You don't just do this, but I'm talking about it because you need to start thinking of these ideas because this window is fairly short.
Well, now, the market we're in, it's a stick and move market. It's not a buy and hold market or sell and hold, whichever. You need to be ready to know what you're doing, why you're in, know why you're making the decision, and then be ready to get out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have guys in the same exact stuff. One guy's making money, one guy's losing money, and it has everything to do with timing. It's a very unforgiving market. The July-December corn spread was up there at 35. Guys that took it off in the 30s, they're laughing. They're thinking about putting it on again. The guys that didn't, which I'm in that camp, wrote it down to where it is today. And, you're the same position, one wins, one loses. But you could say that about the call options. Just talked about with one of my clients. He had some short-dated calls on, and he was laughing just the other day, and now they're worthless. So it is a stick and move market. It's been this way since September. The only one that isn't is my famous spread, the long cattle short. We can stay in that all day long. But again, we're not telling anybody that it's a joke. It's a great joke, but it's still we're not in that one. So we wouldn't even be doing this. We'd probably be on a beach somewhere.
Oh, totally be on the beach. At least in Vegas. At
least somewhere. Yeah, not in a podcast studio. But everything else, the soybean options, the puts, the calls, both sides of everything has a different story. One guy calls on the right day or times it right. The next guy doesn't, and it's worthless. $10 May puts, that was a big one. Those were up and down money at least 4 times since guys put those on. And there's these little windows, these little scary windows with the tariffs. The premiums jumped, and then 5 days later, it's ripping the other way. Super unforgiving markets, super difficult. And now you're facing a summer, and they're just daring you to take this price, saying it's going to be the worst price you've ever seen if you don't. And you just know if you do, it's going to be totally wrong. And you got that feeling like if I fall for it in early May and take this price, it's going to be wrong. But if I don't, you'll watch it go down to 385 futures. It's not a fun market. I'm not enjoying it. Nobody I'm talking to is enjoying it. Everybody's out planning. They're very distracted, and that they're probably benefiting from being distracted. I was missing fish on the lake while I was fishing. That was a nice distraction. Then I got in front of the markets, and it's just this brutal wake up. Why not be down 15 cents for corn for no reason? And then tomorrow, it could be anything. And that's been the problem with these markets, and it continues to be. Is this erratic trade that we've seen since September, I would say.
So with weather potential in the next, 3-4 weeks, are you looking at courage calls at all? We talked about courage calls a month ago.
I like
anything that way as they take a shot at something.
I've always liked beans better than corn. And when I ask a guy, why are you buying this? Of course you want to buy it on the crop that you're on, but I'm talking on the speculation side, hot and dry. So in my mind, beans go up faster than corn on hot and dry. And the bean options are really affordable. So that's the ones I favor. Now, the outlook with China tariffs and they're never going to buy anything again, that can change virtually overnight. So that might not be it. And then with the low crop acreage that we got this year with beans, that's the market I consider, I like better. But would I call it fundamentally really bullish right now? No. And no market is. But we've held this 10-15 level for months and months and months now. We're in front of the entire summer's growing weather. It seems like that might have a place as far as the strategy goes for a guy. It kind of surged there. It was getting too expensive for me, and now it's cooling off. So that's where I like is looking at the soybean stuff and make sure you have the right month and make sure you have something reasonable for a strategy on, price-wise. Like you don't buy $14 calls and expect to make piles. But not that it can't happen. It's just, you want to get close to the money for a reasonable amount, or you want a bull call spread, like buy a $10, sell $11. You got that dollar window, something realistic. Some guys like to do the $14 and buy a whole pile of them. And the idea is, like, let's say you pay 2.5, 3 cents for something. You get a big, huge swing up even to $12.50. What you paid 2.5, 3 cents for is going to be like 10 or 15 cents. But all these strategies are not very good right now. You need some sort of news other than the grains go down every day. And then you talk to clients, they're busy out farming, which they should be, but still you want to start formulating a plan. And this market is just not that kind of market. It's a very bad outlook for corn. But we have no idea what the weather is, and we have no idea what the tariffs are going to be or aren't going to be. Is there a trade deal? You read one guy about China, and they're saying the factories are closing, and in 5 days they're going to have to come to the table or they'll be out of business. The next thing that you read, China doesn't need the U.S. anymore. They're done with it. They're going to buy their airplanes from Europe or whatever. And it's hard to know where any of that's going. I don't think there's been any more clarity. Did I miss something in the last week where there's been more clarity on the tariffs?
I mean, if you missed something, I missed it as well, because I haven't heard.
Has a trade deal even been signed?
No, plenty of people are keeping count.
Yeah,
of how long it's taking. But
yeah,
I also so they said 90 deals in 90 days, right? So I think it's it's 20 days. Was the last count I saw, 0 deals after 20 days. I also think, like, these deals aren't ones that you just make in a couple weeks.
No, they're
super complicated.
Yes.
So you probably, I think 90 is a stretch, don't get me wrong, but say you're going to get 40. I think all 40 of them take 90 days to get done. It's not like you just sit down and hash it out quick, or ask ChatGPT to write this deal out for me and we'll just sign it.
Yeah, and it's not like both sides are just going to give away the farm because there's a little tiff going on. Like, right. Japan's not just going to roll over and give everything up. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, which is the phase that we're in. So how is the market even going to react to any of this? No one even knows. Right. Like, once you get a trade deal on the table, let's just say it's Japan, will the market even care? It might really care. It might not care at all. So that's not going to make things easy at all. I would guess that, seeing how they're running down grains, you'll probably get a relief rally on this stuff. But then you get Japan, then you get Vietnam, and it rallies a little bit. Then I think it's going to get tired of it until China.
Maybe Japan's going to take all our cattle, and cattle will just rocket up.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need cattle to double in price.
Yes.
I've been talking a lot about cattle. We're at an interesting phase, though. What does happen here? Well, on the retail end, they're going to have to shove prices up and slow down the kill. I don't know that it's like 840 corn. Eventually you have a product that, there might be a low quantity of and too high a demand.
I'm worried about the number of steaks we're going to get to grill this summer. I mean, we need to, I need you to do better on your spreads so you can buy me steaks.
Yeah. It's, if you were to believe everybody in the sale barn and all the, the analysts that are super bullish that we're going to run out by July, you hear this, that there won't be any to kill by July. But this will end very poorly at one point, and it'll have to do with demand dropping at the same time that there'll be increasing animals. What window is that? That's the $1 million question. Or is are they going to slow down the kill and just try to back up cattle the old-fashioned way, jam up box beef, cool off demand that way? They cannot continue to operate at the losses that they're seeing. Now, don't mistake that for me for feeling sorry for them. No, this is they made this happen by not sharing the profits and driving people out of business and not wanting to be in the cattle business. That's how we even got here. So the cattle guys deserve all of this. It's just, at one point though, they raise a commodity, and people can choose not to process it or consume it, and that'll probably be the phase that ends it. I would think that's what happened, like when corn went to 840. Yes, there's no corn out there, but at this point, we can't use it fundamentally in our business. It'll make things worse by buying this corn. we're better off just cleaning the entire establishment for 3 months and hoping something changes, because you lose so much money doing it, you can't process that meat. That's where you're eventually going to get here with the cattle. Other guys still think they're making money. I doubt they are. They're probably really losing, and they deserve it. They've been making what, $1,100 is what they owned up to at one point a head. So how long can these losses sustain? $1 million question. What's amazing is the demand. It's on the retail side. It's just people like beef. It's a little more fun to talk about this market because it's not fun to talk about grains, but it's a market that's got everybody's attention. Even guys that aren't in the beef trade are saying when is the top coming in, and it always does in commodities. I don't know. I mean, you hear all these crazy numbers. What's your guess, Ryan? Let's throw out some guesses.
Well, I'm going to first say, if I knew, I'm not telling anyone, and I'm going to find as much money as I can. Right now, I'm going to go pull a whole bunch of cash together if I had the answer. I honestly don't I thought back in February it was looking toppy, and I really thought that we were going to see a pretty big pullback, and it was a muted seasonal pullback right in line with the usual seasonal.
Yep.
It was very muted. So I'm scared to even make a guess right now. I don't think you see something before the end of summer, but that could all be present, if there's a major market event like we saw on Liberation Day and after that with the tariffs, I do think cattle will be severely affected by that. So outside market can super affected. If we're just looking cattle fundamentals next February, that's my prediction.
That's bold. I nailed it within a day. I look like an absolute genius, and one of my clients who is probably listening can own up to it. But now I look like an idiot because it blew through that high. Now it's nowhere near the high. It just kept going out. It was just the high for a little bit. What was that, about a month ago? So but I nailed that one. The almost high. I got that one.
Nice.
So I'm going to try for the real high again. I think you get 3 strikes. I'm going with futures June, let's say, I don't know, 2/18/25. Mark that down. Don't short it there. That's just out of thin air. It's just
1825.
Yeah.
In June.
Yeah, by June. Yep.
By June.
Yep. So
I didn't realize you wanted to get that specific, but
one guy pointed out.
You know that way better than I do. So honestly, we're going to have some pullbacks through there. I just don't see it going way back down unless there's outside market.
One guy on
influence.
Twitter I saw, he had pointed out since the COVID low, it's rallied $143. So it's had a nice trip up. There's no doubt about that.
I remember buying puts at 78 cents. That wasn't that long ago. It was pre-COVID, but that, I felt good about buying puts at 78 cents.
Yeah, so we got a stellar cattle market and a gray market that just absolutely stinks. With the one good news that we were talking about was the outstanding exports in the front of corn, and now they've taken that away from us. We got nothing. Wheat's the cheapest in the world. Whoop-de-doo. It always is, and we've been selling it. That's actually, the exports have been good there too.
That's the unusual part. Usually we have the cheapest wheat and no one buys it.
Yeah, no, this time.
So now people are buying it.
But it doesn't seem to matter for corn or wheat, and that's what's really disappointing for me, is that we have this demand, and we've seen in the recent past that demand really affect the markets to the upside. So we have this demand, call it near record demand for corn, and nothing. There's just nothing there. So it really doesn't bode well for the outlook. I don't think corn is going to like going into that June report, and they have the updated acreage in the end of June, and it's usually bad news, truthfully, in that June report. So I doubt that it's going to be really fired up going into that. But what can you say about it? It's on pace. It looks like it's going to be a lot of acres.
Weather's perfect right now.
The weather's perfect. You're going to have guys in trouble spots, but last year there was a lot of trouble spots, and this year there's not any that's notable. Illinois, parts of Ohio, a little further south is very wet, but not enough to even make the news. And it's trouble probably going into June because of that. So I'd like to paint this rosy picture, but we're hoping for a trade deal, Theo, tariff news, or whether it's shifting abruptly to hot and dry. But then if you're cheering for that, I mean, it's going to probably hurt your plan too. So
right.
We're kind of running out of runway here for good ideas. But we'll dive into the numbers. You never give up. That's what you got to do. You got to keep on looking for ideas.
Stick and move.
We'll talk to Mike. We'll talk to Mike. Mike will have some ideas. He's out there on the ground. He'll figure stuff out for us. But I've been calling around looking for any ideas from anybody, and everybody kind of just shrugs their shoulders. So my advice is go out and plant and not worry about it. What are you going to do? It's a terrible market.
Just plant it and it won't be worth anything. Is that your advice?
No, I think you should go to Fleet Farm, get barbed wire and fence posts, start buying cattle, build a herd. It's your only chance. Skip the. Well, you can make them as great.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, just you're gonna. Have to
thought you were going pure positivity, John.
No, it is.
That's your positivity.
Cattle.
Don't grow
easy.
Corn. Raise
I don't
cattle.
know if you know cattle guys. Raising cattle is easy. They listen. They show up when they're supposed to. They never get into anything they're not supposed to. Easy living. So throw up some barbed wire. Throw up some fence posts and buy cattle. They're cheap at the sale barn too. They're on sale.
I mean, feeders were on sale that one day last week.
Well, I figure while I'm doling out bad advice, I might as well go for it completely today.
Yeah. So, yeah. Go out and buy cattle, and then you don't need to sell your wheat. You can feed it to them.
Feed it. You might as well feed it. If they're going to give you for something, I would feed it.
Yeah.
No, I think actually that you will see that in some of the fringy stuff that'll start disappearing. And that's how you fix the acreage problem. Eventually you make it so poor that you have to do something else on that land. And I think you will start seeing that, but not by the June report. You're not going to.
No, and that definitely doesn't happen overnight.
Bankers are probably sweating. They're not liking this. I know a few. I don't think they like this at all.
I mean, I would guess that if it continues this way, there will be something that happens.
Yeah,
That's the only way I'd say it.
I would think that there's tariff money from last time and when this happened, that they gave the tariff funding from the tariffs to mail it out in checks via farmer or direct deposit. You would think a program like that's coming. Still, it doesn't solve any of the issues that we have. So that could happen. I mean, I don't know if it is. That's what happened last time. And but it still doesn't. We're just kind of getting pigeonholed here with too much of everything. The world corn supplies have been going down, world wheat supplies have been going down, and it hasn't mattered one bit. And that's really what's really disappointing about all this is that it feels like we're going into a cycle now that we're going to start building these supplies. So it's like if this was the good times, I don't really want to see the bad times. But no, like you say, you got to be cheerful. Things do change really quickly, and I'm hoping that's the case with these grains. But boy, the mood on Twitter is sour, I would say. And don't even go check the Facebook group. They're not happy at all.
No, we should all be happy for the weather and the conditions and all of that. And then there are options out there to at least add some percentage to your crop. So just call John.
Yeah, on the Insider, we'll be going over this where we talk about more specific ideas. The pickle that we're in here right now is just that we're right in front of this weather window that you don't really want to commit to that yet, but the market's pressing it lower, saying you better do something right now. I really don't like it when it does this, and it's not uncommon that it does do this, but it puts you in a really tough spot where to market, because do you feel the pressure watching it go down every day, hearing these bad stories, but you're still in that window where I personally would go with the odds. Odds favor something changing over the next 6 weeks that gives you better opportunities, and that's where I'll leave it. I just think that you don't really have a choice. Unless you get really aggressive and take a lot of risk, there is no choice here. And I wouldn't do that. Not this time of year, not me.
No. So plant and watch, and we'll see what happens. Anything else you want to add? No. It's
I think we'll dive into the numbers a little bit more for next time, and maybe get specific ideas, different time frames on different options, maybe some different looks that go. And we'll talk a little bit more about the courage calls. I really like the soybean side of stuff. So we'll get a little more specific and maybe talk about what you can do about it. And by this time next week, we'll have a little more weather. Maybe it's drying out and they're already starting to worry about it. We don't know. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. And hopefully things change a little bit, because who wants to see corn go down 15 every day? Not me.
Right. Which reminds me, we hedge because we don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
And I'm the first to say there's going to be years where, like, you have a year like this, there's not, like cattle last year, there's not a lot you can do with this market. But wait and see. Once you get past that mid-June into late June and there's no problems, then you really need to start planning faster. And so we have the benefit of waiting here a few weeks, and we hope things change, and that's what we're going to do.
Perfect. Well, thanks, John. You want to leave your number?
Sure. 218-731-1578.
Have a good one.
You too. Anything else on your mind?
No, I was going to start the podcast.
Okay.